4 to 6 p.m. every Saturday. It is the Justin Brady Show, and I am so excited that we have Tom Steyer in the studio. Mr. Steyer, thank you for coming in here.
Justin, it's great to be here, and would you please call me Tom? Everybody does.
I'll call you Tom. Tom, thanks for coming. So the first question I need to know, and this is according to a lot of Twitter followers, and I've gotten a lot of feedback, and I'm pretty sure you're going to dodge it anyway, but I'm going to ask, what's up with the belt?
I'm not going to dodge it. So
I'm kidding, of course.
I wear a belt that is a Maasai belt from Kenya.
Okay.
And I wear it because one of the things I believe in is that the education of girls and young women around the world is one of the most important things we can do, that it can save the world. And so I was over there looking at some schools that some friends of mine had started for poor girls from Kenya so they could go beyond the 8th grade, because the education of girls is associated with so many good things in terms of family size, family planning, in terms of justice, in terms of much more careful environmental behavior. In fact, if you look at climate change, if you can believe it, a friend of mine wrote a book called Drawdown about the 100 things we need to do to arrest climate change. And 3 of the top ones had to do with the education of girls throughout the world. So I wear the belt because it's beautiful.
Yep.
And I wear the belt because I like to remember that some of the most important things in the world, like the education of girls, don't get talked about, but we can never forget that those kind of deep-seated, justice-based, equality-based movements are some of the most important things in the world.
So the next question I have is it a talking piece? Because you got me to ask that question. That's a good answer, by the way.
No, it's funny because I do a bunch of things, Justin, to remind myself of my deepest values, of the things that I would never want to give up on. So regardless of how much pressure there is to do the easy thing or to do the convenient thing, that I make sure that I stick to the things that I really most deeply believe are true and enduring, and that I be that kind of person.
So one of the questions I have, because I'm combing through your background, and it is very impressive. Like I look at all the things you've accomplished, and it blows me away. Your funds, everything you've done is really impressive. But one of the things I want to know is Democrats are really concerned about the environment. They're concerned. There's the privatized prisons investment in the past, and this isn't news. Everyone knows this. We've heard your answers on it. But how can you win over DNC voters when you've previously made money at your company, off coal, all this stuff, the Cayman Island funds, which, by the way, I totally support. I've gone on the record saying if people avoid taxes legally, come on, this is America. We should be doing everything we can to limiting our own tax burden as long as it's legal. But my question is, Democrats just don't like that stuff these days. So how do you plan to win them over?
Look, let's talk for a second about fossil fuels. Our fund invested in every part of the economy. I came to the conclusion over 10 years ago that basically our energy system based on fossil fuels that everybody in the United States grew up in, a fossil fuel-based economy, was going to have this horrible impact on us, climate change. So I divested from fossil fuels. Before that, we owned fossil fuels. Do I wish I'd realized sooner that it had this impact and that I should do that? Of course I do. But I divested, I took the giving pledge, and I've been fighting for 10 years in a way that I don't think anyone else who's running to get the Democratic nomination has, to make sure that we push our fossil fuel economy into a renewable economy, to a sustainable economy. So if you actually look, I did 10 years ago what I'm asking people to do today, which is to realize, look, we all grew up in an oil and gas and coal economy. And now we have to change. And so my point is, let's do it. Let's be richer, let's be better paid, and let's be healthier. And let's stop. I don't mind companies. I know I'm a private sector person for 30 years.
Yep, absolutely.
I know we need a private sector. What I object to, and I vehemently object to it, is the idea that the private sector writes the rules for our society. No, that's what democracy is for. The elected officials are supposed to represent the people of the United States. I vehemently object to when the elected officials do the bidding of corporations against the interests of the American people.
As do I.
That makes me crazy. But the idea that we have a private sector that's innovative and entrepreneurial and gets things done, great. That's very American, and I support that. I just want to make sure the government represents the people.
Right. No, and I completely get that. But we are living in cancel culture where people are digging into past, no matter what you've said currently. And I'm of the thinking that if I've done some stuff in the past, now I don't think the stuff you've done in the past is bad. I think it's great. But I'm in that thinking where if you've done some stuff in the past and you say, look, I've changed my ways, I think people should accept that and move on. But in cancel culture, they don't seem to. And we've seen a lot of that on the Democrat side. Do you think voters are going to take that message and say, you know what, Tom? I'm with you.
Look, in our investments, were there ones that I regretted? Yes. Did I realize it 10 to 15 years ago and get out of them for moral reasons? Yes. I wasn't running for president. I was doing what I thought was right, and I made the moral decision on my own. So, of course, I wish we'd never invested in fossil fuels, but we did, and I changed. And what I'm saying is this. Look over the last 10 years. As an outsider in the political system, I have put together coalitions of ordinary American citizens to take on that unchecked corporate political power, and we've won. If you believe, which I believe, that corporations have bought our democracy, I believe that. Hostile corporate takeover of the American government. Then who are you going to trust to actually undo that? Someone who's been taking them on and winning for 10 years from the outside, which is me? Or the people from Washington, D.C. who are part of that culture and who say, now we're going to change? Look, you have 10 years of watching me say I'm going to do it and watching me do it. And that's what I'm saying now is I will take them on. I will beat them. Look at my record. I can do it.
So you've been highly critical of President Trump. Now, for full disclosure, my listeners know I didn't vote for him. I voted for Gary Johnson. But you've been highly critical. I guess that's kind of an understatement, right? Highly critical of President Trump. But one of the things he did say was he's going to erase the debt in 8 years. Obviously, he's failed miserably at that. He's run it up significantly. So when you open Farallon, is that how we say that? Farallon?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You turned that from $9 million into a $36 billion fund, which is absolutely phenomenal. So I want to know, can you take that financial knowledge and experience and actually cut down the debt? Because no one can do it. So are you going to be the guy that can do that?
So, Justin, I built a business from one room with no windows and no employees into a multi-billion-dollar international business.
Right.
I spent decades figuring out what makes countries prosperous, what makes countries share that prosperity, what makes industries work, which make companies work, and how they interrelate. There is nobody on the Democratic side who has anything like my experience and knowledge about economics and what drives jobs, and more than that, what drives wages and costs for working people. So when I look at that deficit, which of course makes me gag, well, it does, because it's like this is what Trump.
Fair enough.
This is what Mr. Trump does. He overpromises. He overborrows.
I don't think I'm going to disagree with any of that.
And so my point
Trump.
is, I can see it. But what I'd say is this: take a look at my record. I know how to add and subtract. I know how to run things. The first thing I do is I'd undo those tax cuts. The Trump tax plan was the biggest giveaway in American history to big corporations and the richest Americans, at the expense of working Americans and everybody else. It was an absolute mistake and absolutely unjust. His trade policy, his trade war, is specifically killing Iowans. It's a failure. It was badly conceived. It's a mistake. And in fact, we did the numbers. It turns out it hits every Iowan by $630, $2,500 for a family of four.
Do you have? And it's not fair to ask anybody a certain number, but would we see a reduction in debt in the first several years of your presidency? I'm not going to say you're going to cut it in half.
Okay.
No one can accurately predict that.
I understand that, but here's what I would say to you, Justin. The answer to that question has a lot of questions in it, because when you look at the way a government is supposed to run on a fiscal side in terms of the money, it's not supposed to be constant. In fact, what the government traditionally is supposed to do is, they call it leaning against the wind. Like you're on a sailboat and you lean against the wind to keep it from tipping over. So in good times like this, you're supposed to be running the government, where you're getting as much money in as you spend out, so that when we hit a recession, so that when times are tough, you can then run up a deficit to help people. So that when times are tough, you're there leaning against the wind and supporting and investing and building roads and hiring people and making sure that the thing doesn't fall apart.
So
the answer is, in an economy like this, would I be cutting the deficit in half? Absolutely. I'd start by undoing the taxes, the tax plan Mr. Trump did. I proposed an asset-based tax for the richest Americans, for the top 0.1% of Americans last October. Because what we've seen for 40 years is that the richest Americans have gotten everything.
Yeah,
and
but,
I've been a benefit of that.
You know, you're an economics guy, and to be quite honest, you could run circles around me on this, but I don't. With all the reports say the money's not there if we tax the richest Americans, and even people like Howard Schultz, who were considering. I don't know if you've met Mr. Schultz before.
Never.
But even Howard Schultz, who is considering a run, has said, "Look, guys, if we're going to dial back the debt, we have no choice. We have to get rid of entitlements." So, are you going to get rid of any entitlements? Are you a free college for everybody guy, a free health care for everybody guy, or is there?
Look,
I mean, how does that work?
So if you go through and look at my positions, I am actually someone, let's just talk for a second about healthcare.
Yeah.
I'm for someone who thinks we should have a public option. We have I look at how politicians describe these different problems, and I use completely different words. I don't say we have a healthcare crisis. I say we have a healthcare cost crisis. It costs too much.
Totally agree with
and
that.
because we have a healthcare cost crisis, we have a healthcare availability crisis.
Correct.
Because we don't have enough. At this cost, people are squeezed out and aren't covered or choose not to be covered because they don't think they can afford it.
Right.
So it's killing working Americans, the cost of healthcare. If you look at us compared to every other advanced society, I don't know if you've ever done it, but I have. We pay twice as much.
We do.
Pay our government does not fight for American citizens in terms of cost.
And the world's
against
also
the
innovating
drug
on our
companies.
backs as well.
Of course they are. But if you look, an example I like to use, insulin. Insulin was invented in 1930. It's almost 100 years old. We pay 10 times the amount that Canadians pay for insulin. Can you believe that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
10
I
times.
can believe it.
But it's not a new drug. There's no patent protection on insulin.
So you're saying go after the costs, lower the costs.
Absolutely. I
And no,
go
I agree
after
with
the
this, by the way.
costs
Totally
and make
agree
it
with this.
available to everybody.
Yeah, totally
Like
agree with
to
this.
me, healthcare is a right for an American. The problem we have is, it's too expensive for everyone. When you look at why working Americans haven't had a real increase in their wages since 1980, a big part of it is the fact that healthcare's eaten it up, and it continues to eat it up. So
Well, I mean, they have had an increase, though. I mean,
not
it's-
when you include buying power.
It's the
not
product-
when you
is
include
it-
the cost of healthcare,
Sure,
the
I
cost
see what
of
you're
rent, and the cost of education. They haven't, and that's incredible.
Well, and the cost of extra debt expenditures that people are spending now that they used to not
Yes,
do.
I guarantee you they haven't. And one of the things I'd say is this: that proves what I'm saying about the hostile corporate takeover of our government. Because if you look in 1980. At the Fortune 500, the CEOs of the Fortune 500 in 1980 made somewhere between 25 and 30 times the average worker in their companies. In 2017, it was somewhere between 250 and 300 times. It's totally changed. The money's gone to the richest Americans, the ones who own and run corporations. And that's what's happened. It has not been fairly shared. And that's because the corporations don't want it fairly shared. That tax plan works perfectly for corporations and the richest Americans. And we've got to change that. It's just not fair.
But you know as well as I do that if we change those laws, if we close the tax loopholes, because this is your background, like you know how to I don't want to use an unfair word, but you know how to mess with money and get the best return for your clients. You did it. You were good at it. So you also know that if we close those loopholes, you're just going to see more Cayman Islands funds.
No.
You're going to see more.
No.
Are you going to close those loopholes too?
Justin, for 10 years, I've been taking on corporations on behalf of coalitions of American citizens and beating them. That's what I'm promising you I will do. That I will get up in the morning. You say, are we going to try and drop the cost of healthcare? Ruthlessly and relentlessly. Am I going to fight for American citizens? Ruthlessly and relentlessly. And I'll tell you a story. I was in a hospital in Nevada, a big public hospital, having lunch with a bunch of the people who work there. Everybody but the doctors. And I said, do you guys like your jobs? They said, we love our jobs. And I said, are you well paid and have good benefits? And they said, no, Tom, it's not benefits and wages. We save lives. This hospital is a public hospital. We save lives, and we're really proud of it. And I said, that's fantastic. Who do you look to in Washington, D.C.? Who fights for you guys? And they said, no one. And I was like, come on, no one? They're like,
I want to get one more
we're
question
on our
in
own.
there
And my
real
point
quick,
is,
yep.
they can't give that answer. That broke my heart. That the people who see themselves as having meaningful lives because they're saving lives of everyone who walks into a public hospital feel that no one gets up in the morning with them in mind fighting for them. That's what I'm telling you I will do. I will do that relentlessly and ruthlessly every single day.
So I want to give you a full 2 minutes. So I want to ask one real quick question. And if you can't answer it in 30 seconds, that's totally okay. I understand. But would you be open to opening up like a fast track for med tech innovation? Because right now, if you're going to file with the FDA, it's a $2.5 million. You have to pay for all this independent reporting. It's out of reach for innovators. Would you be willing to fast track that or lower some of those FDA
Of course
barriers?
I would. Of course I would. Look, I'm from California. I believe in innovation. I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in research. I believe in American know-how. I believe in educating Americans as far as they want to go. That's what I believe in, American ingenuity and American know-how.
Awesome. Mr. Steyer, or Tom, as you've
Thank you,
call. Yeah,
Justin.
you bet. When we come back, I want you to have a few minutes just to talk to Iowans. Does that work for you?
Totally.
Awesome. Thank you. You're listening to The Justin Brady Show. We're just going to restart. Just give me 1 second to save that file through. You're fun. You're fun. I can talk to you.
Justin,
all day.
you know, they had to drag me out of the farmer's market.
How'd you like that, by the way?
Listen, I seriously, I love doing that. The problem was I talked to so many people, I didn't get to talk to the farmers. We raise grass-finished beef. We do regenerative ag. I love to go to farmers markets because you basically find people who share a ton of values, and you ask them, when you say organic, what's organic mean to you? And then you learn something.
They don't know.
All right, it's different for different, which is why it's an interesting question. It's not a fake question, it's a real question.
So what do you think about the whole, like, vegan DNC, like, Democrat movement? We're not recording. I mean, I can...
Did I mention we raise grass-finished cattle?
Right, I know. So you think it's craziness?
Look,
I'm not
I
gonna
think
use that.
the is we need to do it in a way that's good for the earth.
Yeah.
We need to do it in a way that's good for the soil. We need to do it in a way that's good for the animals. We need to do it in a way that's good for the consumers. And we need to do it in a way that sequesters carbon. And it's all possible.
I think that a lot of farmers kind of get the shaft on that because
Totally.
they look at the CO2, but they don't look at the offsetting. Because I think what it's ag is about 35% contributor to CO2.
18.
Is it 18?
Yeah.
But then they contribute the offset by 30% or just 2%.
So I'm not,
so close.
look, I look at agriculture and plants as this is how we're going to sequester the carbon. Hello. So do I believe in regenerative ag? Sure. Do I believe in agricultural as a course, as a source of carbon sequestration? Yes. Is that going to make farmers richer? Heck yes. Do I like that? Heck yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I see this completely differently. I see agriculture as an opportunity to make us better
I wish we
about
could-
carbon sequestration.
I wish we could talk about that more too, but I want to give
I'm
you
on,
time.
look, I
We'll-
spend a lot of time with farmers.
Yeah.
We raise beef.
Yeah.
I'm not a vegan.
Meanie.
I want people to buy my beef.
Yeah.
Not forswear my beef.
So in the Steyer White House, we're going to be a lot of hamburgers. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to...
Grass finished, baby.
Yeah, that's so funny. All right, so this is going to be about 147 goes to you. I'll give you a 10 count at the end.
Fine.
But I'm going to just give a really quick intro, and then I'll just point to you, and we're off to the races. You're listening to The Justin Brady Show. We are still here with Mr. Steyer, or he wants me to call him Tom. Tom, I just want to give you the remainder of the time just to talk to Iowans. What do you want to tell them?
I want to paint a very simple picture of what we're facing in America. I believe we have two straightforward challenges. One is to undo this hostile corporate takeover of our government, and the other is to make climate change stop, to basically get our natural world under control. Those are both hard challenges, and I've put forward ideas of how exactly we do it the first day of my presidency. But the second thing I'd say is this: we are not a failed society. We are the most successful society in the history of the planet. If we do those two things, we are in a position to be able to guarantee a level of lifestyle for every American better than people understand. We can get health care as a right. We can get education that people deserve pre-K through college. We can get a living wage for every American. We can get clean air and clean water as a right for every American, and we can restore our democracy. So when I talk about having challenges, we've always had challenges as Americans. That is nothing new, and we have always met them. If we can get ourselves together and meet these two challenges, we look forward to a future that is brighter than any people in the history of the world. Sure, it's a fight, but we can win it, and it will make us more prosperous, more just, more equitable, and healthier. So let's have a great future.
Tom Steyer, or Tom, thank you very much for coming on the show today. I truly appreciate it. Everybody, you're listening to The Justin Brady Show. And we're out.